welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast, the show that keeps you updated on the latest trends, innovations and stories shaping the world of technology and business technology. So yes, I'm your host, Neil C. Hughes, and today we've got a fascinating conversation lined up for you because on today's episode, I'm delighted to have Simon Walker and Tim Smeaton from the Kubrick Group joining us today. We're going to take a deep dive into the current state of digital skills and the challenges that we face as society, especially with recent news that an estimated 5 million workers are at risk of becoming acutely underskilled in basic skills by 2030. So we're going to explore the reasons behind this tech skill shortage, the widespread underskilling and what we can do to address it. And we're also going to discuss the exponential growth of the digital sector, which contributed to a whopping 151 billion to the UK's economy in 2019. And with the recent announcement of the UK digital strategy, the sector is expected to contribute an incredible 41.5 billion and creating 678,000 new jobs. But where is the future heading? And what does this mean for the workforce? And how are the Kubrick Group supporting businesses during this phase? Well, Simon and Tim are going to be talking about all this and also shedding light on the importance of recruiting and cultivating talent from non-traditional backgrounds and so much more. So buckle up and hold on tight because no matter where you're listening in the world, I'm going to be beaming your ears to the US, to the UK, all at the same time. But enough from me. Let's get them both on the podcast now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. We've got two guests joining us today. So Simon, to begin with, can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Let me tell you a little bit about the organisation Kubrick first. So our mission is to overcome the digital skills emergency. We do this by basically creating our own workforce in the really, really hard to find next generational technology skills. So you know, your machine learning engineering, data engineering, and things like that. We've been going since 2016, mid 2016, and we're in the UK and US. And my role within the business is all about the clients. So I'm the chief commercial officer, and I work very closely with Tim, who's now over in the US heading our American operation.
Excellent. Thank you, Simon. And Tim, for everybody listening, can you just offer a few words about who you are and what you do too?
Yeah, by all means. So, yes, I'm the CEO of the organisation. I moved over to the US in September to help lead by example and spearhead our expansion over here in the US market, which has been pretty exciting. I should add that Simon and I have worked for 22 years together. Yeah, this is our third business together, so we're a bit of a double act that's been working. And Kubrick's, you know, as I say, Kubrick's our third business, but you know, it's a really great business to be involved with. It's got such a strong purpose, as an organisation in terms of, you know, helping lots of people who haven't necessarily been educated or trained in technology skills to bridge the gap into getting digital roles in the UK and the US. So it's an exciting business, and thanks for having me today.
Wow, you guys go back a long way, and I'm looking forward to finding out more about Kubrick in a moment. But before we do, can you just tell me a little bit more about the scale of the problem that you're working to solve, just to set the scene for today's conversation?
The scale of the opportunity is enormous, and it's very large in most of the developed nations around the world, where effectively education isn't meeting the needs of the commercial world in terms of educating enough people with technical skills. So depending on where you want to look for sort of the specifics, I think Microsoft had a survey out in partnership with LinkedIn for the UK about a year ago now, stating that there were broadly 3.5 million vacancies, if you like, for data, cloud and software developers that will be required by 2025. And you can amplify those numbers up depending upon the size of the market. So over here in the US, there's been talk about a deficiency in the number of people around about the sort of 20 million mark over the next decade. So you're talking about a very large structural issue that exists in terms of the number of people coming out of university with sort of digital skills versus actually what the commercial world actually demands, basically, to enable them to scale their businesses.
What I would add to that as well is it doesn't suddenly solve itself, because, as you'll know, technology is moving at a rapid pace. So interestingly, when we trained our first data engineers back towards the end of 2016, if you look at our data engineers now, they have something like only 40% in common with what we were teaching them. And back then it was all about big data and Hadoop and things like that. And it's just simply, you're not seeing that anymore. So not only do you have the problem of the lack of people actually coming in through secondary education and higher education routes, but you also have this rapidly transforming technology landscape, which is really, really hard for certainly universities to keep up with, but organizations to keep up with.
And I'm conscious there will be people listening hearing about the Kubrick Group for the very first time. So can you just tell the listeners a little bit more about what it is, and also a little bit more about the mission that you're both on here?
Yep, sure. Well, what we saw this digital skills emergency, and we realized that to actually do something and do something differently, we had to create our workforce, and we had to create our workforce in the areas that we thought there was the greatest need. And also, those areas really are probably the areas that many people find very complex, such as machine learning engineering, data engineering, cloud engineering, what have you. And we realized that actually in the UK and the US, certainly people coming into their careers, you have this industrious set of people coming through excellent higher educational routes, but they did not have, they had the right analytical thinking, but they did not have the ability to be able to get into the technology data market and be able to get into larger organizations. So what we do is we are there as being able to supply to our clients a ready supply of very, very highly skilled consultants that are able to work on the problems that's really holding them back, and they can unlock a lot of value. And that over a period of time, we allow our consultants and our clients to actually them to join the permanent workforce. So we have something like 75% of our people joining our clients, and for that we've got quite a large alumni, as you can imagine, around various organizations across different industries.
Yeah, it's a pretty neat model, really, isn't it? If you think, if you come out of university and you've done a degree in physics or something like that, and as Simon said, you want to get into the data industry, you've got several options available to you. You could either go and get a master's degree, which is, on average going to cost you about £23,000 a year, or you could pay a boot camp to train you for 12 weeks, or you could join a company like Kubrick, where we actually employ these people from minute one. We salary them and we train them for 16 weeks. And that length of training is pretty intense, frankly. But that's what enables them to be productive for our clients. So it's a really inclusive model as well, because obviously a lot of people haven't necessarily got the finances or wish to take on further debt to do a master's degree, or pay a boot camp £14,000 or whatever it might be. So it's a good inclusive model that's doing something good for the industry and is highly additive, really.
And I think that the speed of technological change is continuing to race ahead at breakneck speed, and it can be incredibly challenging and daunting for businesses to keep up, especially with the tech skills shortage, etc. So can I ask that you also expand on how you're helping businesses evolve and embrace next generation technology, because it is such a big challenge right now, isn't it, keeping up?
Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, so some of the ways that we're helping them is that obviously we're across the UK and US, we have something like over 100 different organizations that now partner with Kubrick. And there is certainly a lot of knowledge sharing across our platform. Also, we have a very developed technology partner ecosystem that we enable our clients to access and understand what is the next thing. I've got to say, a number of our clients, though, are large organizations that actually, certainly in terms of what they want from data and what they want from technology, they're quite clear on. Actually, really what's holding them back are the people that are able to implement that change. So that's probably the biggest area we help them on. I don't know, Tim, if you would add anything to that.
No, I think we're not involved in the overall strategy of where their organisation is going from a technological perspective. We're we're very much at the implementation and sort of industrialization of their technology that's going to enable their business plans to be achieved. And I guess, the only thing probably we do with our clients is we help them with the art of the impossible by doing a lot of proof of concept work for them.
Yeah.
So often we'll find a business problem within a client, or we'll be given one, and we'll put 30 data specialists onto a project for 2 or 4 weeks to build a proof of concept for a client, just to show them what actually can be achieved. And often that approach is very successful for us because it enables our clients to gain further funding for that solution to be widely rolled out across the organization. So I guess we help our clients look at the art of the possible, utilizing our resource, but we're not involved right at the strategic end. But yeah, I mean, technology changes at such a pace. It's even hard for us to keep up with some of the challenges.
And of course, the tech industry over the years has had a pretty bad reputation around things like diversity, equity, inclusion, etc. And one of the things that stood out to me about what you were doing here was when I was doing a little research, I read about your partnership with Women in Data. Can you expand on that? Because it's so refreshing to hear.
Yeah, look, I mean, diversity is a problem for our industry, and it's not just about gender. It's across racial, religious, socioeconomic. But one of the, I suppose, more obvious and apparent areas of poor diversity is gender. If you take data engineering or cloud engineering, the industry average is something like 12% for people that identify as female, which on the face of it, I think some people may not realize what the impact is. But actually, if you're working in data, and let's say you're working on the customer analytics business of Sainsbury's, or you're actually more looking at patient data and record data for the NHS, it's really, really important that you don't have a homogenous data team. It's really important that you have people from different walks of life, different genders, different races and religions, that are able to ask questions from the data that are different and could be blind spots for other people. So Women in Data is a fantastic organization that we've partnered with for a number of years now. And what it does is it really is a tool of attracting women to come into data, because there's a real leaky pipeline all the way from GCSEs of women not going into STEM subjects. And Women in Data there is a community to show individuals how to get into the industry, show that there is a support network and a community around that. And they've done some great things. They've recently launched actually Girls in Data to actually answer that earlier problem of how do you get young women into these careers, and how do they feel supported and not intimidated by it.
And that 12% figure there is quite shocking that you said a few moments ago. But again, one of the things that attracted me to getting you on this podcast is I read that you've successfully recruited over 40% of female and non-binary consultants in next generation technology. So can you expand on this and how you also want to increase this figure further over the next few years?
Yeah, look, this is really important for us because at the moment we're very lucky. We get a huge amount of applications. In the last 12 months, we've had something like 40,000 applications across the UK and US to work with us. And actually, we've got this. We're very privileged to be in a position that we're able to literally change the face of data and change the face of technology. So we go a long way in looking at how do we get on the radar of a wider set of people as possible. How do we make sure that they're supported in the right way, and that a career with us is attractive? One of the things that we say in Kubrick a lot is we're doing well at the moment. There's still areas that we can improve on. It's certainly not a destination. It really is a journey. So we've constantly got different things working in the background that hopefully will make our workforce as diverse as possible. But also the most important thing is, I think, maintaining it. We don't want it to be a tick box exercise where we feel we've achieved it and not continuously evolve.
And Kubrick's Omnibus survey was something else I caught online. And that survey was of 18 to 34-year-olds, and it was conducted, and it actually revealed that 1 in 4 adults between the age of 18 to 34 say digital skills required by jobs in the tech sector were not actually taught at school, college or university. And almost 45% say they would have been interested in applying for tech roles if they had a better understanding of the jobs available and the skills required to land them. Again, incredibly shocking stat. Did this surprise you?
Well, depressingly, it didn't. No,
Yeah.
not really. I mean, I think that's the problem. There recently, the government came out, I think, last year and said there's something like 11.8 million adults in the UK who are online, but actually lack the essential digital skills for work. And that's really, really worrying. So it doesn't surprise me that actually in school, that's happening too. I mean, there's a separate debate of how computer science is taught, and actually, you don't need to be a computer scientist, but you should be aware of the digital world we live in. And actually, something that Tim said that reminded me of understanding the art of the possible. You don't have to be a technologist to have digital skills. So no, it didn't surprise me, and I suspect that we're in danger of that stat only growing as technology moves at such a pace and it's adopted by more of society and businesses.
Yeah, I mean, I can sort of talk firsthand from this, because obviously I've seen my own children go from UK education to US education, and I'd say, the problem is just as acute over here in the US in terms of, the limited amount of time that is placed upon on technical skills. I see them all carrying their huge rucksacks to school with them every day with all these still books in and all this type of stuff. I think, gosh, it's just going to school with one laptop. That might be a start. I really feel for headmasters, because I think it's just a really difficult job, isn't it, balancing the books? And I've certainly been involved myself with some schools and seeing just how difficult it is to do this. And so enticing people with the right digital skills to be teachers is just incredibly difficult. And I don't think you'd find any headmaster either here in the US or in the UK that wouldn't say that's one of the biggest problems. So I suspect it's quite a structural issue until schools are actually able to offer perhaps more money to teachers or incentivize them in other ways. Then, if I'm a technologist and I can get, 3 times as much as a teacher's salary, I'm probably going to take that route first, no matter how, caring an individual I am about young people. So I think there's a big structural issue, and as Simon said, it's not going away in the UK or the US anytime soon unless some changes are made.
Yeah, and it's not just the technical skills. I think it's digital skills to survive in an office now. I've been reading increasingly about Gen Z, and they're entering the workforce for the first time, and they've got smartphones and tablets, and that's how they operate in the world. And suddenly they're bombarded with things like desktop PCs, complex telephone systems, printers, scanners, navigating a complex corporate file and folder structure, calendar invites, and essentially they feel quite judged when they're entering this world. Then you've got productivity and collaboration tools, and it gets them actually questioning their digital capabilities. They went in there feeling that they knew it all, and quickly came crashing down to earth. There's a lot of things that we're not teaching in schools, isn't it?
Oh, sorry. I mean, I was going to say, yeah, absolutely. Emoji, smiley face. I think that's the bigger problem, to be honest with you. But with text, yeah. I mean, we have to. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we have to train. We have to train people in these sorts of skills: how to behave in a meeting, how to book a meeting, things of this nature. But you're actually touching on perhaps a symptom of a bigger issue, which is to do with some people from different socioeconomic backgrounds. Because if I have a parent who perhaps has worked within a bank or within a commercial office environment, I am through osmosis picking up some of the points around meetings or what the workplace is like, after work drinks and all this type of stuff. But perhaps if I come from an area where I'm not surrounded by that type of influence, then it's very difficult for me to actually really understand what the working environment is like. So there's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy at the moment that says, it's less intimidating if your parents have worked in that sector to therefore operate within it. If you really want to talk about these types of things, I think you're into breaking down the barriers about, socioeconomic challenges for some demographics to get into the working environment, and the support that organisations need to give to them to onboard them into the environment that you're talking about, Neil.
Yeah, 100%. And I also read that Kubrick is urging the government to make digital skills a key focus of its levelling up agenda, which we're seeing on the news over here a lot, especially with tech skills being made a bigger focus on the national curriculum. So can you expand on what you're seeing here?
Well, Neil, just to correct you, I think that might have been an overzealous marketing saying that we're lobbying the government. But I would say that, this is something that's very apparent. I mean, exactly what Tim was speaking about previously and my examples in Women in Data. Frankly, if you want to increase the productivity of the UK, one way is to increase our ability of digital skills and unlocking digital power of our biggest and best industry and also the public sector.
So what's next for Kubrick? Where do you go from here? What's your big focus this year and beyond?
I mean, there's three things really that all come under the title of diversification. Obviously, we've diversified geographically, which we think gives our employees more career options as well. Second thing is the sort of diversification of our practices, which are effectively these sort of skills pathways that you've heard Simon talk about, and that's just about the evolvement of each of our practices as technologies change at such a rapid pace, and the introduction of new things. So, there's a lot of new technology or new solutions coming into play at the moment around streaming analytics, you can't look at the newspaper at the moment without seeing something about AI and chatbots. Maybe the chatbots have actually written the newspaper. That would be the new one. And then you've also got the diversification that we want to keep thinking about ways to actually have a more diverse workforce in the ways that we've been describing up until now. So more of the same. We've trained about 2,000 people now in total since inception. So that's 2,000 people have entered the digital skills industry overall that wouldn't probably have made it. So, we've got an aspiration to get to 10,000 as quickly as possible. And we're going to look to do that in the UK and Europe. So more of the same high quality, helping people get their career ambitions within the digital skills world, really.
Well, I've loved chatting with you both today. We've covered some pretty serious topics today, especially around the future of tech and learning, etc. But I'd always like to end the podcast on a slightly light-hearted note and find out a little bit more on my guests. I've got a question for each of you here. Simon, I'm going to go with you first. Can you share the funniest or most interesting story that has happened in your career?
Oh, goodness me. The most interesting and funniest in my career, blimey, we're in quite a serious industry here. I would probably say the average age of our workforce is 26.
Yeah.
So I look pretty ancient to them. And my wife always dimes out on the fact that one day she walked into our office and everyone thought she was my daughter. I'd like to say the age gap between us is 7 years. So that's very interesting for me.
You must have had a hard paper round, my friend. Huh?
Yeah, I think I did. Blimey.
It's actually too much time in the sun weathers your skin. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, good.
And Tim, none of us in this life are able to achieve any amount of success without a little help along the way. So for you, is there a particular person that you're grateful towards? Maybe someone helped get you where you are. Maybe they saw something in you, invested a bit of time. But who would that person be? And would you like to give a little thank you today or a shout out?
Well,
don't use me.
It wasn't, just for clarity's purposes here, it wasn't Simon. No. Well, actually, I look back and I used to work for this woman. Her name was Libby Vaught. She now lives in Hong Kong. And so she won't probably be listening. I'm sure this podcast stretches across many shores, but I'm not sure she'll be listening. But if she is, big thanks to her. She always used to just say to me, she used to say, "You're too good to work here." Now, I don't quite what she meant by that. Maybe she'd been cleverly sort of using some reverse psychology on me to get me to leave.
Don't use me.
But she kind of motivated me to leave and take the chance to set up the business. And then another one that sticks in my mind actually, which this saying, this someone said this saying to me many years ago. They said, "You lose them like you find them." And I've always used that when I'm interviewing people. I'm always interested to see how they treat their previous employers, because that's exactly how they're going to treat me further down the road. And And this guy Ian, who told me that, he used to have a lot of sayings. Actually, this was the only good one. But that's really stuck with me. But the thing about having set up a few businesses and things like this, the number of people that throw up problems and tell you can't do it far outweigh the people that are supportive and say you can do it. So for the people that are supportive, like you say, tend to stick in your mind, and the people that say you can't do, kind of you quite enjoy proving them wrong, really.
Yeah, 100% with you. Well, love chatting with you today. But before I let both of you go, for anyone listening wanting to find out more information about the Kubrick Group, contact you or your team, etc., what's the best starting point for everything?
Yeah, the best way to look is kubrickgroup.com, but also on our Instagram if you want to get a bit of a feel for Kubrick, but also actually LinkedIn. If you look at our page, Kubrick Group on LinkedIn, that's a really good place to see our most recent news and what we're up to and what we're doing with our clients.
Excellent. Well, I'll add those links to the show notes. So much I love chatting with you about today, from the results of the survey there, the great work you're doing, and also how you're helping this section of the population with, I think, 5 to 10 years experience who are risk of being overtaken by digital skills in the economy, and the great work you're doing with everyone and increasing diversity in the tech industry. Fantastic work, guys. But just a big thank you for taking the time to come on here and share your stories today.
Thanks, Neil. Bye.
Thanks, Neil. Thank you.
And that wraps up another episode of the Tech Talks Daily podcast. So a huge thank you to Simon Walker and Tim Smeaton from the Kubrick Group for joining me today and sharing their valuable perspectives on digital skills, the future of the sector, and the importance of cultivating talent from diverse backgrounds. And now, as we move forward in this digital age together, I think it's crucial for us all to stay informed, adaptable, and open to learning. So my big question to everyone listening is, with the pressure on everyone to be in a state of continuous learning, where or how do you self-educate? Let me know. Email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, just @NeilC.Hughes. And also don't forget to subscribe to the Tech Talks Daily podcast wherever you listen to this podcast. If you've just found us for the first time, hit subscribe so you don't miss another episode. And if you did enjoy today's episode, also please take a moment to leave us a review or share your thoughts on social media or my inbox, whatever it might be. I'd love to hear from you. So until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and keep exploring the ever-evolving world of technology. Take care, and I'll see you all again tomorrow. But until next time, don't be a stranger.